What if I told you that everything you've been taught about success, happiness, and life itself is a lie designed to keep you running on a hamster wheel you didn't even choose to get on? Right now, as you're watching this, you're probably feeling that exhaustion. Not from working too hard, but from trying to be someone you're not, chasing goals that aren't yours, in a race that nobody wins. You know that feeling when you achieve something you thought you wanted, and instead of satisfaction, there's just emptiness? That's because you're living someone else's life, following a script that was written before you were born. In the next minutes, I'm going to show you how three philosophical giants completely dismantled everything we believe about life, identity, and freedom. Schopenhauer revealed that life itself is programmed suffering. Nietzsche exposed that your entire personality is borrowed from others. And Huxley predicted exactly how modern society would imprison you with comfort and distraction. Sound familiar? But here's the thing, they also showed us the way out. By the end of this video, you'll understand why "don't try so hard" isn't lazy advice. It's the most revolutionary thing you can do in a world that profits from your exhaustion. If you've ever felt like you're suffocating in your own life, like you're performing a role you never auditioned for, like there must be more to existence than this endless cycle of work, consume, sleep, repeat, this video is for you. I'm going to show you exactly how you've been programmed, who did it, and most importantly, how to break free. And I'll warn you now, once you see this, you can't unsee it. Your comfortable illusions will shatter. But on the other side of that discomfort is something real, maybe the first real thing you've ever experienced. So if you're ready to understand why you're so tired, why nothing ever feels like enough, and why the harder you try, the worse it gets, keep watching. And if this resonates with you, hit that like button to help others find this message, and subscribe to support the channel so we can keep bringing you content that actually matters. Because unlike the rest of your social media feed, we're not here to entertain you to death. We're here to wake you up. You didn't choose to be here, yet here you are, playing a game whose rules were written centuries before your first breath. Schopenhauer called it the will to life, this blind, irrational force that drives everything forward without asking anyone's permission. Think about it. You're reading this because millions of years of evolution programmed you to seek information that might give you an edge. Your ancestors who didn't care about learning, they're not ancestors to anyone. This automatic drive, this relentless push forward, it's not something you decided on. It chose you before you even existed. Every morning, you wake up wanting things you never consciously decided to want. That coffee craving? That need to check your phone? That subtle anxiety about what others think of you? None of these desires originated in some moment where you sat down and thought, you know what? I'm going to start caring about these things. They were installed in you like software, running in the background of your consciousness. Your brain's been shaped by thousands of generations of survival pressures, social conditioning, and cultural programming that started the moment you entered this world. Hell, even before that, through your parents' genes and their parents' genes. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Most people spend their entire lives thinking they're making free choices while actually just executing pre-written code. You think you're choosing your career, but really you're following a script about success that was handed to you. You believe you're picking your values, but they're mostly inherited from a society that needed you to think a certain way to keep the machine running smoothly. The prison isn't made of bars. It's made of invisible assumptions you've never questioned. And the most insidious part? The prison convinced you that you built it yourself, that these are your authentic desires. This isn't pessimistic, it's liberating. Because once you see the strings, you can start to understand why you dance the way you do. Once you recognize that this endless striving, this constant push for more, isn't really you, but rather life itself expressing through you, something shifts. You start to notice the gap between what you've been programmed to want and what actually brings you peace. But to see this clearly, you need to understand something even more unsettling about your identity. Nietzsche dropped a bomb on humanity when he said we're not individuals, but dividuals, divided beings made up of competing drives, inherited values, and borrowed desires. That career you're chasing? It's probably your father's definition of success. That relationship model you're following? It's likely your mother's idea of love, mixed with Disney movies and social media highlights. You're not living your life. You're performing a character that was written by everyone except you. And here's the kicker. Your method acting so hard, you forgot you're acting. Look at your deepest beliefs about right and wrong, success and failure, what matters and what doesn't. Can you honestly say you chose them? Or did they choose you through repetition, through reward and punishment, through the subtle art of social conditioning? When you were 5, someone told you sharing was good, and you got a cookie. When you were 15, someone showed you what success looked like, and you got approval. Now you're 35, still chasing cookies and approval, but they've got different names now: promotions, likes, validation, status. The game got more sophisticated, but it's still the same game you never signed up to play. Your authentic self, if such a thing even exists, is buried under layers of other people's expectations. Every should in your vocabulary is someone else's voice. Should get married by 30. Should make 6 figures. Should be grateful. Should work harder. Should. It's exhausting, isn't it? And when you fail to meet these inherited standards, you feel guilty about not living up to values you never actually chose. You're literally punishing yourself for not being someone else's idea of who you ought to be. It's like being homesick for a place you've never been. But here's what Nietzsche understood that most miss. Recognizing this isn't depressing. It's the first step to genuine freedom. When you realize your desires aren't originally yours, you can finally start examining them objectively. Do I actually want this promotion, or do I want what I think it represents? Do I really desire this lifestyle, or am I just afraid of being seen as unsuccessful? Yet, even as you start questioning these inherited patterns, modern society has evolved an even more sophisticated way to keep you trapped. Huxley saw it coming decades ago. The dictatorship of the future wouldn't need chains or whips. It would use pleasure, distraction, and comfort. Look around you. You're not oppressed. You're entertained to death. Your phone gives you dopamine hits every few seconds. Netflix keeps you binging until 3 a.m. Food delivery apps ensure you never have to experience even minor discomfort. You're not in Orwell's nightmare of jackboots and surveillance. You're in Huxley's brave new world where the prison bars are made of pleasure and the guards are algorithms designed to keep you scrolling. This isn't conspiracy, it's business. Every app on your phone employs teams of neuroscientists whose job is to make their product as addictive as possible. They've studied your brain better than you have. They know exactly what colors, sounds, and rewards will keep you coming back. That pull to refresh gesture, it's designed like a slot machine. Those notification badges, they're engineered to create anxiety that only opening the app can relieve. You think you're choosing to check Instagram for the 15th time today, but really, you're responding to psychological triggers that bypass your conscious mind entirely. The genius of this system is that it doesn't feel like control, it feels like freedom. You have thousands of choices: which show to watch, which restaurant to order from, which filter to use on your selfie. But while you're busy making these meaningless micro decisions, you're not making the big ones. While you're choosing between 50 types of breakfast cereal, you're not questioning why you're eating processed sugar for breakfast. While you're debating which series to binge next, you're not asking why you need to numb yourself with entertainment every evening. The abundance of trivial choices masks the absence of real ones. And here's the most insidious part. This comfort-based control system makes you weak. Every convenience removes a small challenge that once made you stronger. Every algorithm that predicts what you want prevents you from discovering what you actually need. Every moment of boredom you escape with your phone is a missed opportunity for your mind to wander, to create, to actually think. You're being domesticated like a wild animal in a zoo, well-fed, safe, entertained, and completely unable to survive in your natural state. But what if the exhaustion you feel isn't from working too hard, but from fighting against your own nature? Here's the paradox that'll twist your brain. The harder you try to fit the social script, the further you get from who you actually are. All 3 philosophers understood this. Schopenhauer saw that our constant striving creates suffering. Nietzsche realized that becoming who you are means stopping trying to be who you're not. Huxley recognized that the system maintains itself by keeping you busy with false goals. Don't try so hard isn't about being lazy. It's about recognizing that most of your effort is going toward maintaining an illusion that doesn't even make you happy. Think about your daily struggle. You're trying so hard to be successful, but success as defined by whom? You're pushing yourself to be productive, but productive at what? Making someone else rich? You're exhausting yourself to maintain an image, but an image for people who are too busy maintaining their own images to really see you. It's like everyone's acting in a play where nobody's watching because they're all too busy acting. The whole thing would be comedy if it wasn't so tragically exhausting. We're all trying so hard to be something we're not that we've forgotten what we are. The revolutionary act isn't to try harder, it's to stop playing the game altogether. But this doesn't mean dropping out or giving up. It means recognizing which efforts actually align with your genuine nature and which ones are just social conditioning on autopilot. When you stop trying so hard to be impressive, you might discover you're already interesting. When you quit pushing yourself to want what everyone else wants, you might find what you actually desire. When you cease forcing yourself into shapes that don't fit, you might naturally flow into your authentic form. But here's what nobody tells you. When you start following this path, when you begin to not try so hard in the conventional sense, people will think you've lost your mind. You're breaking an unspoken agreement. You're violating the social contract that says we all have to pretend this makes sense. You're showing them, just by existing differently, that there's another way. And that terrifies people who've invested their entire lives in the illusion. Which brings us to an uncomfortable reality. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize the social conditioning, the inherited desires, the comfort trap, your whole world shifts, and not always pleasantly. You'll sit in meetings discussing quarterly targets and suddenly see everyone as sleepwalkers mumbling in their sleep. You'll be at parties where people compete over who's busiest, and it'll look like children arguing over who has the most invisible friends. You'll watch friends chase promotions that'll make them miserable and relationships that'll make them lonelier. And when you try to point it out, they'll think you're the crazy one. This is the loneliness of awakening. You're surrounded by people, but you're speaking different languages. They're talking about climbing ladders. You're questioning why the ladder's there. They're comparing achievements. You're wondering what achievement even means. They're stressed about keeping up. You're realizing there's nowhere to go. It's like being the only sober person at a party where everyone else is drunk on social conditioning. You see the absurdity, but pointing it out makes you the buzzkill, the negative one, the person who just doesn't get it. Your relationships will change, and not all of them will survive. Some people need you to stay asleep because your awakening threatens their worldview. Your success makes them question their choices. Your freedom highlights their imprisonment. Your authentic happiness exposes their performed satisfaction. They'll try to pull you back, not from malice, but from fear. They'll say you're having a midlife crisis, that you're being irresponsible, that you need to get back to reality. What they mean is, please come back to the shared illusion because your absence makes it harder to maintain. But here's the thing, this discomfort is necessary. You can't birth a new self without the old one dying, and death, even metaphorical, isn't comfortable. The social programming runs deep, and extracting yourself from it is like performing surgery on yourself while you're awake. It hurts. You'll doubt yourself. You'll wonder if maybe everyone else is right, and you're just being difficult. You'll long for the simplicity of just believing what you were told to believe. But once you've tasted even a moment of authentic existence, going back to the programmed life feels like suffocating. So the question becomes, how do you actually break free? Deprogramming yourself isn't a weekend workshop or a self-help book. It's a gradual dismantling of everything you thought you knew about yourself. Start with your automatic responses. When someone asks what you do, notice the pride or shame in your voice. When you see other success, observe your immediate emotional reaction. When you're alone with no distractions, watch what thoughts arise. These aren't your thoughts, they're the programming speaking. Your job isn't to fight them, but to observe them like a scientist studying a fascinating specimen. Oh, interesting, there's that status anxiety again. Hello, inherited insecurity about money. The practical work begins with small rebellions against your conditioning. Skip a meeting that doesn't matter. Say no to a social obligation you're attending out of guilt. Spend a day without checking any metrics. No likes, no bank balance, no weight, no steps. Eat when you're hungry, not when it's lunchtime. Sleep when you're tired, not when you're supposed to. These seem trivial, but their practice runs for bigger departures from script. You're building the muscle of authentic choice, strengthening your ability to act from internal rather than external drivers. Here's a technique that'll rewire your brain. Question every I am statement you make. I am successful. According to what standard? I am behind in life. Behind whom in what race? I am not creative, says who based on what? Most of your identity is just a collection of unchallenged assumptions you've been carrying around like luggage you never packed. Start unpacking. You'll find half of it doesn't even fit you anymore, and the other half was never yours to begin with. The real question isn't who am I, but who am I when I stop trying to be somebody? But the deepest work is learning to tolerate the void that appears when you stop filling yourself with society's purposes. When you're not chasing the next achievement, not numbing with entertainment, not defining yourself through others' eyes, what's left? At first, it might feel like nothing, and that emptiness is terrifying. But sit with it. That void isn't empty. It's potential. It's the space where your authentic self can finally emerge, not as another identity to perform, but as a natural expression of your actual being. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about no longer pretending to be someone you're not. Here's the ultimate mind-bender. Becoming who you are requires no effort because you already are who you are. You just need to stop being who you're not. It's not about adding more to yourself. It's about subtracting everything that isn't you. Nietzsche called this amor fati, loving your fate, embracing what you actually are rather than lamenting what you think you should be. Schopenhauer found peace in accepting the will rather than fighting it. Huxley warned us that the only escape from the brave new world is to stop participating in its games. They're all pointing to the same truth. Authenticity isn't achieved, it's revealed. When you stop trying so hard, something remarkable happens. Your natural talents emerge without force. Your genuine interests become clear without searching. Your real relationships deepen without effort. It's like you've been wearing a costume that's 3 sizes too small, and suddenly you take it off and can finally breathe. You realize that most of your problems weren't problems at all. There were conflicts between who you are and who you were pretending to be. The anxiety wasn't a disorder. It was your authentic self screaming against the performance. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop growing. Actually, the opposite happens. When you're not wasting energy maintaining a false identity, you have enormous power for genuine creation. When you're not exhausted from performing, you have energy for real engagement. When you're not anxious about being exposed as a fraud, you have courage for actual risks. The paradox is that by doing less of what doesn't matter, you naturally do more of what does. By trying less hard at being someone, you become more fully who you are. The world doesn't need another person trying to be successful according to society's definition. It doesn't need another slave to social media metrics or another participant in the rat race. What the world needs is you, the actual you, not the performed you. The you that exists when all the trying stops. The you that emerges when the social programming fails. The you that's been waiting underneath all that conditioning, patient as a seed in winter soil. That's who you are, and you don't have to try to be that. You just have to stop trying to be everything else. So here you are at the end of this video, but really at the beginning of something else entirely. You've just seen through the matrix of social conditioning, inherited desires, and comfort-based control. The question now isn't whether what I've shared is true. You feel it in your bones, don't you? That recognition, that finally someone said it sensation. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Will you close this video and go back to scrolling back to the comfortable prison of distraction? Or will you actually start the uncomfortable work of becoming who you really are? I'm not going to pretend this is easy. Tomorrow morning, you'll wake up and the programming will still be there, whispering that you need to check your phone, that you're behind in life, that you should want what everyone else wants. The world will still demand you perform your assigned role. But now you know it's a performance. Now you see the strings. And that awareness, that tiny gap between stimulus and response, between programming and choice, that's where your freedom lives. Start there. One authentic choice at a time. One no to what doesn't serve you. One yes to what actually feels true. Here's my challenge to you. For the next week, catch yourself trying too hard at something that doesn't matter. Notice it, name it, and then stop. Just stop. See what happens when you don't force it. Watch what emerges when you create space. Pay attention to who you are when nobody's watching, when there's nothing to prove, when the performance ends. That person, that's who you're looking for. That's who the world needs. Not another successful zombie, but an awakened human being who remembers what it means to actually live. If this video hit you somewhere deep, if it articulated something you've been feeling but couldn't name, share it with someone else who's suffocating in their scripted life. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next dive into the philosophy that actually matters. Because we're not here to make you feel better about your imprisonment. We're here to show you the door. The question is, are you brave enough to walk through it? Remember, don't try so hard. Your authentic life is waiting on the other side of all that effort.